the weight you carry. How much of your life is weighed down by what you own? Possessions, obligations, distractions. We live surrounded by excess, yet starved of peace. The Stoics believed that simplicity is not loss, but liberation. To live with less is to live with more clarity, more strength, more freedom. Welcome back to Stoic Wellspring. Today, let us walk into the practice of Stoic Simplicity. This is the art of living lighter, so that the soul can live freer. The paradox of less. Our culture teaches that more is always better. More possessions, more status, more experiences. Yet the Stoics saw the opposite. The more you cling to, the more you are chained. Simplicity, for them, was not deprivation, but clarity. By removing what is unnecessary, they uncovered what is essential. In this video, we will explore 8 lessons of Stoic simplicity. These are practices that free the mind from clutter, open space for virtue, and reveal the strength hidden in less. Before we begin, I invite you to support this work by subscribing to Stoic Wellspring. Your support gives me the strength to keep creating better reflections to serve you. Now, let us begin with the first practice of Stoic simplicity. It is called clearing the clutter. This is where simplicity starts. It begins by removing not just the mess in your home, but the noise in your mind. Every object carries a hidden cost. It must be cleaned, maintained, stored, remembered. The more you own, the more invisible strings pull at your time and energy. The Stoics warned that possessions are not neutral. Each one whispers demands, shaping your habits and even your identity. A crowded room becomes a crowded mind, restless, distracted, unable to focus on virtue. Modern psychology confirms this. Studies show that clutter raises stress hormones, lowers focus, and even distorts decision-making. Surrounded by excess, the mind grows fatigued, mistaking maintenance for meaning. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." The true poverty is not lacking objects, but being owned by them. History gives us striking examples. Diogenes lived with almost nothing, proving that freedom does not come from having more, but from needing less. When he threw away even his drinking bowl after seeing a boy use his hands, he laughed at how long he had been enslaved by something unnecessary. In modern life, clutter appears not only as objects, but also as commitments, notifications, and endless choices. Each item, Each ping, each yes, becomes another chain. To clear clutter is to reclaim authority over your own mind and time. The Stoic call is this: remove what is unnecessary, so the essential can breathe. Each act of letting go is not loss, but liberation. In every cleared space, in every quiet hour reclaimed, you will discover a freedom richer than any luxury could give. Part 2. Choosing quality over quantity. The second lesson of Stoic Simplicity is to choose quality over quantity. Owning less is not about emptiness, but about choosing wisely what deserves space in your life. The Stoics observed that abundance without discernment leads to distraction, while fewer but finer things nurture both body and soul. Simplicity, in this sense, is not about denial, but about refinement. Epictetus once advised in his discourses, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." The same principle applies to possessions. It is not how much you have, but how you use and value what you keep. History offers striking examples. Roman households of the elite often overflowed with luxury. Yet many Stoics, even when wealthy, practiced restraint. Musonius Rufus, often called the Roman Socrates, insisted that a simple meal of bread and olives was enough for strength and virtue. Modern life reverses this wisdom. We buy more clothes, yet wear the same few. We chase countless experiences, yet remember only the ones that truly touched us. Quantity multiplies noise, while quality multiplies meaning. Choosing quality over quantity is not about luxury brands, but about alignment with values. A well-made tool, a nourishing friendship, a meaningful book, these outweigh dozens of their shallow counterparts. They strengthen life rather than clutter it. The Stoic call is not to live with nothing, but to live with what matters. By choosing the essential and discarding the trivial, life gains weight where it counts, and lightness where it should. Part 3. Mastering Desires. The third lesson of Stoic Simplicity is to master desire. Without this, no amount of decluttering or discipline will last. For what you resist outwardly, ungoverned desire will rebuild inwardly. The Stoics saw unchecked desire as the true tyrant of the soul. To crave endlessly is to live in slavery, for your peace depends not on yourself, but on the next thing acquired. Epictetus once reminded his students in the Enchiridion, freedom is not achieved by satisfying desires, but by eliminating them. To cut desire is not to shrink life, but to release it. History is filled with warnings. Roman nobles often fell into ruin, not because they lacked, but because they could never be satisfied. Palaces became prisons of their own making, filled with abundance, but never with contentment. In modern life, advertising feeds this same fire. Every screen whispers, "You need more." The cycle never ends. A new phone, a new car, a new lifestyle. But the hunger grows sharper, not softer. The Stoic alternative is not suppression, but mastery. To pause before desire, to ask, will this make me free or bind me further? Most cravings collapse under that single question. To master desire is to discover sufficiency. And in sufficiency, there is a hidden wealth, the wealth of needing less, and therefore living more. Part 4. Valuing time over things. The fourth lesson of Stoic Simplicity is to value time more than things. For what we trade for possessions is not only money, but hours of our life, hours that will never return. Seneca once wrote in his essay on the shortness of life, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." We do not lack years, but we spend them on what does not matter. History makes this truth clear. Roman citizens labored decades to build wealth, only to die before enjoying it. Meanwhile, philosophers who lived simply had time for study, reflection, and friendship, the very things that endure beyond wealth. Modern life repeats the same mistake. We work overtime for bigger houses, but have no evenings left for those we love. We buy faster cars, but have no time to drive anywhere meaningful. The currency we spend is not money, but life itself. The Stoics teach us to reverse the equation by seeing time as the true wealth and possessions as negotiable. Protect your hours as you would guard treasure, for in them lies every chance to live with wisdom, love, and freedom. Part 5. Finding joy in simplicity. The fifth lesson of Stoic Simplicity is to rediscover joy in simplicity. For the Stoics, happiness was never hidden in luxury, but revealed in clarity, in the ability to see beauty in what is small, common, and already present. Seneca once reflected in his letters to Lucilius, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This principle extends beyond possessions to pleasures. Joy shrinks when chained to craving, but expands when rooted in sufficiency. History gives us vivid pictures. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, often wrote in his meditations at dawn, finding contentment not in imperial banquets or treasures, but in the simple act of breathing, of watching the sun rise, of reminding himself of virtue. His joy was portable, never dependent on circumstances. Modern psychology echoes this wisdom. Research shows that gratitude for small, daily experiences increases long-term happiness more than major life events. A warm cup of tea, a walk in the park, a shared laugh. All of these, when repeated often, create a foundation of contentment far stronger than occasional luxury. Yet our culture has trained us to overlook the simple. We scroll past a sunset to chase a screen. We ignore the taste of bread in the rush for gourmet meals. We trade the steady rhythm of ordinary life for the restless chase of extraordinary illusions. The Stoic invitation is to turn the ordinary into sacred ground. Eat a meal with full attention. Step outside and breathe the morning air as if it were the rarest gift. Speak with a friend not while multitasking, but with presence. In these small acts, joy multiplies. True simplicity is not a barren life, but a richer one, rich not in possessions, but in perception. When you find joy in less, you discover that less was never empty. It was always enough. If this reflection is bringing you clarity, pause for a moment and subscribe to Stoic Wellspring. It may seem small, but for this channel, your support is the breath that keeps these reflections alive. Together, we learn to live lighter and freer. Success, as the world defines it, often feels heavy, a race for titles, possessions, and recognition. But the Stoics invite us to pause and ask, what if success was never about accumulation, but about alignment? Let us step into this reflection with Part 6, Reframing Success. The sixth lesson of Stoic Simplicity is to reframe success. Our culture defines success as accumulation of wealth, titles, and possessions. The Stoics saw it differently, for success is measured not by what you gather, but by what you can live without. Epictetus once reminded his students in the Discourses, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. To reduce wants is to increase freedom, a redefinition of success that modern culture has nearly forgotten. Consider Marcus Aurelius. As emperor, he had access to limitless wealth and glory. Yet in his meditations, he continually reminded himself that fame fades, wealth corrupts, and that true success lies in living justly, with self-control and service to others. Modern life offers a painful contrast. We glorify entrepreneurs who burn out chasing billions, influencers who measure worth in followers, workers who sacrifice decades for promotions. Yet many arrive at the top only to feel empty, having traded health, relationships, and peace for trophies that gather dust. The Stoic definition of success is simpler, yet deeper, for it is to wake with gratitude, to act with virtue, to end the day with a mind at rest. Success is not the noise of applause, but the silence of a clear conscience. To reframe success this way is to free yourself from endless comparison. For once you stop measuring your life against others, you begin to live it truly as your own. Part 7. Cultivating Inner Riches. The seventh lesson of Stoic Simplicity is to cultivate inner riches. For the Stoics, the greatest wealth was never in gold or property, but in character, wisdom, and virtue. These cannot be stolen, cannot decay, and do not depend on fortune. Seneca once wrote in his moral letters, "No man is crushed by misfortune, unless he has first been deceived by prosperity." Outer riches deceive, promising security, yet leaving us vulnerable. Inner riches, however, remain steady through both feast and famine. History shows this contrast. While Roman elites built marble villas and collected exotic luxuries, philosophers like Epictetus, once a slave, owned little but lived with unshakable dignity. His poverty in possessions was overshadowed by his wealth in wisdom. Modern life still confuses the two. Many chase financial success, but neglect resilience, empathy, or clarity. A man may have millions in the bank, yet feel empty. Another may have modest means, yet radiate peace, strength, and joy, because his riches are inward. The Stoic task, then, is not to amass outward treasures, but to invest daily in the unseen. Every act of courage adds to your fortune. Every moment of patience is a deposit. Every choice of integrity compounds interest. This is a wealth the market cannot crash, and thieves cannot touch. True simplicity is to turn from glitter to substance, to polish the soul instead of the surface, to live with less distraction and more cultivation. For when inner riches grow, outer needs shrink, and freedom expands. Part 8. Freedom in letting go. The eighth and final lesson of Stoic Simplicity is freedom in letting go. Simplicity is not merely about decluttering or consuming less. It is about releasing the chains of attachment that bind the soul. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in his meditations, receive without pride, let go without attachment. To him, freedom was found not in holding tightly, but in the graceful art of release. History bears witness. Roman generals were reminded in triumphal processions that even glory fades, whispered to by slaves. Remember, you are mortal. Their crowns meant nothing if they could not release them. Victory without detachment quickly turned to ruin. Modern life struggles with the same lesson. We cling to careers, relationships, possessions, even identities. But clinging breeds fear. The fear of loss, the fear of change, the fear of impermanence. Letting go is not losing, but returning to the truth that nothing was ever truly ours to keep. Psychology today confirms what the Stoics knew. Attachment fuels anxiety, while acceptance fosters peace. Those who learn to release, whether it is an old regret, an unhealthy habit, or a fading possession, carry themselves lighter, freer, and stronger. The Stoic path of simplicity ends here, not in denial of life, but in freedom from its chains. To let go is to live unburdened. To live unburdened is to live awake. And to live awake is to live free. Pause now. Breathe slowly. Feel the weight of your possessions, your cravings, your endless comparisons. Each one is a stone you have carried without knowing. Now imagine placing them down, one by one. The clutter dissolves. The noise fades. In the silence, you begin to remember who you are without them. Less is not empty. Less is space. Space to breathe. Space to see. Space to live awake. Ask yourself now, what would you gain if you dared to live with less? And what invisible chains would finally break? 8 Lessons of Simplicity. Clearing the clutter, choosing quality, mastering desires, valuing time, finding joy in the ordinary, reframing success, cultivating inner riches, and discovering freedom in letting go. Together, they form a Stoic path to living lighter, clearer, freer. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in his meditations, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." The secret was never in having more, but in seeing enough. Thank you for walking with me to the end of this reflection. If these lessons on simplicity stirred something in you, consider subscribing to Stoic Wellspring. Your support keeps these reflections alive and together we continue the work of living with less and finding more. Be well. Be still. Be free.